Good, we're recording?
Thank you.
That's fine, no problem. Yes, Khaled, you've been at Speaker's Corner for a while and you were one of the first people that I spoke to here. How long have you been here for?
A little bit over a year, I'd say.
And you are a Muslim?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
Yeah, so there are a lot of Muslims here, but you're of a sect that's smaller than mainstream Muslim and also sort of antagonized at the park. Is that true?
Yeah, we're persecuted even in the park. So sometimes it gets a little bit like, I don't want to say scary, but they threaten me physically. But mostly they are just generally rude and not interested in listening. We're fair game to be insulted here. Yeah.
Yeah, from the Christian perspective, it seems like Christians are outnumbered by Muslims. But I would imagine from the Ahmadiyya Muslim perspective, it feels like everyone's against you because even your own sect don't welcome you. Is that a fair representation?
Yeah, we're a smaller minority than you guys are, the Christians. Yeah, and it's quite funny how many Muslims there are here. I was just doing a survey. I don't want to make detract, but I was doing a survey and I struggled to find the non-Muslims, but it's really changing over here.
Has that changed in the year that you've been here? Has there been more Muslim, or has it been pretty much this way since you've been attended?
I feel like there's just more and more Muslims coming here because I feel like it was sort of 50-50, and today was really quite an eye-opener when I was trying to do the survey. I was like struggling to find the non-Muslim. Maybe that was just that half an hour time, but yeah.
I've been here for just a few weeks, so just over a month now. I've been attending Speaker's Corner, and from the onset, it's always been a majority Muslim. And I've spoken to a few Christians that have been here longer than I have, and they've said that it's pretty much been a Muslim dynamic. And I just want to ask you about that dynamic as well, because part of the game that's being played at Speaker's Corner is sort of an overcrowding that happens, where conversations becomes a show and an audience develops around the cameras come everywhere, and then how have you felt about that way of conversing? Has that been good for debate, or has that been bad for conversation?
I don't think I would miss the pantomime of these things. So if you're a top YouTuber, you're not particularly interested in the truth. I've got a video of a guy who's the most famous Muslim YouTuber running away from me because he didn't want to be debated on camera, but he was happy to debate off camera, you see, and he's refused me before. There's a lot of editing and hiding of the truth, so I don't think I'll be missing that when I go to Jordan. There is a lot of tribalism as well, which I try to keep away from. Like, if I have a huge crowd hating on me, I'll be like, I just get really bored. And I'm like, okay, I'll stop talking until I can have a sane conversation. So I prefer like one-to-one conversations like this.
And you've been one of the few people that in my conversations with you, even though it is recorded, it's always been very chilled. It doesn't turn into a shouting match. For the most part, there's some listening that happens where we sort of try to come to an understanding. And also, I feel one of the things that helped that was the strategy of you first speaking about the things that we agree on, the things that where we find similarities between where we're coming from. One of which was just looking at marriage, for example. That's something you're very passionate about, and it's something that I also believe it's a crisis that needs to be spoken about. So I think that's something you've been good at.
I think two things you said there. One, that me and you, we're not that competitive. We're not here just to fight. We do try to find what's common, and also the second thing is we try to find something practical, that we're not having just plain ideological discussions for no purpose other than to be the winner. We're trying to find ways to make the world a better place, and that is very uncommon in Speaker's Corner. It's very ideological, whose God is right sort of thing, even though really I believe we have the same God. But that's what a lot of atheists say, that they dislike the who's right, who's wrong, whose God is right is in their phraseology.
Yeah, I think we are less combative, and I think some people benefit more from the combative nature of things. So we can just have you move a little bit. You like my shadow, but right, the sun's gone, so don't worry.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so there is a combative sort of stance that a lot of people take. What is your motivation for coming to Speaker's Corner? Because you're not here for to be the loudest person screaming. Why do you come to Speaker's Corner?
Out of duty to make the world a better place. I can see loads of suffering, okay, and most people try to turn a blind eye to statistics. They go, oh, the number of suicides is jumping. Oh well, never mind. I'm like, no, we got to mind. We got to solve the problem. People are suffering, and there are really good solutions out there, and from all religions even. There's so many things. I even talk about Christians should go back to church because then you would have more community. Then you would be less isolated and things like that. So I'm all for like just making our fellow humans be happier, live a better life, and to be less miserable. And that's my duty. I do it out of duty to God, who's watching me all the time. That's how I think.
And I spoke to Mohammed earlier. He's also an Ahmadi Muslim, and someone that I've seen on a lot of those videos where always feel sorry for him. He sort of gets surrounded by the Muslims, and it turns into 1v7 because it's coming from different angles. What's been your experience in talking to Muslims and talking to Christians? Has there been the same similar sort of decorum, or has there been any difference at all in the way?
I would say the Christians are a lot more polite and understanding. It's very rare, relatively rare, to get somebody who's a Muslim who's not going to be rude to me and tell me to shut up when he can't argue with me. Do you know what I mean? I literally have a video with my 13-year-old, when he was 13, now he's 14, where generally I told the person everything we're going to debate, and all he had to say was to me, shut up, shut up, shut up, stop talking, right? So we don't get that with Christians. We disagree, but it's more polite with the Christians. I would still say my discussions with the Christians is that the only problem I would say with the discussion with the Christians, because I don't like to be too agreeable, is that the Christians often don't reflect on the alternative evidence. That's how I would define it. They won't say. But that's a bit unfair because even the nice uncle, I'd say, you're my brother, he's my uncle, a Christian, he did at least admit that the evidence makes sense, but he had a very complicated way of going around it and saying it's all metaphorical. Anyway, I'm giving a long answer. Sorry about that.
No, that's fine. It's good answer.
Yeah.
Has there been anything from the Christian that's been surprising to you? Anything you didn't know about the religion that you've learnt about Christians from Christians?
There's so much variety of Christians, right? So we've got a lady who practices Sabbath on Saturday. There's another friend who says he's Christian, but he believes in Prophet Muhammad. You might say, how on earth can you do that? Even the Muslims don't like him, even though he's accepted Prophet Muhammad, right? My point is, there's a lot of variety, and one thing I try not to do is simply pigeonhole people immediately. Have a genuine, polite conversation so we can learn about each other before we limit ourselves to the pigeonholes or the labels and the descriptions.
What are some of the strategies you found that's been helpful in having conversations with people without pigeonholing them, without nailing them to their ideology? How do you distinguish between all of this variety of Christians? What?
Spending time talking to people, just spending time, and it does take time as well, you know, like because it takes so much time to get here and come back, I'm often a rush to go back, but you do have to spend time with people and talking to people. And I think I've been, let's say, how can I say, sometimes I feel like I'm not going to talk to person X because that person sounds crazy, right? But then when I spend time talking to them a little bit, in fact, it's not even me. Sometimes, like Muhammad, he's a lot more social than I am, and he would say, talk to person X, and then I'm like, oh, we do have a lot in common. So I think overcoming my own weaknesses, trying to take on the good examples of other people, and trying to basically use all that experience to listen to people more. Because as a British person, I want to say something bad about British people. We don't take time to listen to people, and because Muhammad's Arab, he's a lot more social than I am, and I try to take on those good qualities of being social, and then I learn more about people. That's what I want to say about that.
Yeah, I think I've experienced that. You've spent time. We went. You've been generous. We go for ice cream seats, have a conversation. Apart from away from the conversation from the camera, you spend time with people. So you've been, in my experience, you've been good at that. And I guess lastly, what are you gonna miss about the speakers corner?
The first thing that comes to mind is that even though I said there's a lot of illogical people, there's a lot of very logical people and a lot of intellectual conversations, and it's relatively harder to find that in Jordan, where the Muslims are very ideological, and I will actually be looking mainly for the foreigners to have more of the interesting conversation, even though, and there's going to be a lot so what am I going to miss? Yeah, I'm going to miss the logical conversations here with the fair number of people who are logical. I'm going to miss that. And there's so many lovely people as well, yourself, Muhammad, there's so many lovely people. I'm hoping, but there are so many lovely people there, and I'm looking forward to meeting those really social and kind people in Jordan as well.
Yep, that's all I've got for you. Thank you.
Thank you for your time, I appreciate it. You can stop the video now.